So without further ado, Kelly.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm sure last night at Startup Weekend Team, Lisa was just standing in the back going, oh God, is she gonna do it? Is she gonna do it? Is she gonna do it? And I looked out and there's like all these great kids, these like little shiny, interested faces. And I looked at the parents in the back and I said, all right, I'm gonna say something, but they've all heard the word before. And I could just see Lisa going, oh no, oh no. And I looked at them all and I said, you're here to make cool shit. Just make cool shit this weekend. The reason I'm going to hand these out is typically what people ask me about is networking and networks and community building. I'm going to talk some about that. You might have questions. Just pass out cards to everyone. Get them. The black pen is because I'm like a Sharpie crazy person. You might have your own pens, but otherwise you want to pass around the Sharpie. I will answer every networking question. So if we don't have enough time in Q&A, I will answer every question. I will send them to Lisa and Jessica. I will send all the answers. And I'll make sure that everyone who is here and everyone who's a member of Hautepreneurs like gets the answers, because typically I find that when it comes to connecting and how did you do that involves networking, that we all pretty much have the same questions, and you know, one person not putting up their hand or one person saying, I wish I'd asked this, everyone's kind of running that through their mind. And for me, most of our challenges, our business challenges, professional challenges, have an answer that lies in a network and a pathway and a connection, connecting people, ideas, something. And so for me, that's, you know, when I talk about networking, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, in many cases, I'm not talking about the reception and the cocktail party I'm standing between right now. Thank you, Lisa. So, you know, kind of thinking that what I was going to talk about, you know, the lessons from a networked career. My entire career path is explained by introductions and networks and relationships. And if I think visually of what my life and career looks like, there are year milestones of graduation and career change that are marked by recessionary economies, which is really kind of like, ask me when I'm changing careers because you know what the stock market's going to do. There is a career path for a period of time that was entirely predictable. The network, the relationships, the things that surrounded and fed me in terms of what my ambitions were, expected. You graduated, you went to university, you got a secondary degree, you got that office, you stayed in it, you know. Like I'm a lawyer, as Jessica noted. In Canada, you graduate, you have to do an articling year, sort of it's like a mandated year of mentorship. I could go on about that for hours. It's the best thing ever for young professionals. There was 4 of us who were articling students at a firm called Miller Thomson. 2 of them are still there and they're partners, and I think it's the wackiest thing ever, right? But that was the era, right, that when I graduated in '91, that's what you did. You got a job and you worked your way up the ladder and you stayed there. I moved to New York in 1998. And in, I think, a bold estimate, I think I knew 4 people. And one of them is now my ex-husband. So everything that has happened to me, so when I think about the top of the visual and where my career is and now and where it got interesting, as Lisa noted, there's this craziness that has happened particularly in the last 3 years. It's nothing I could have ever said that I would have imagined happening in my life based on the first part of my career. But if I look below the surface, there is a constant churn of activities in terms of networks and relationships and purposely pursuing things, right? As Carrie noted, saying yes, right? Might not be the right timing, but is there ever a right timing to be interviewed by the New York Times? The right timing is when they call you, right? So there's this constant churn and activity of knowing when to build your expertise, right? Knowing when you're building your network, knowing when you're building a bank account and other reserves. And that activity is like kind of like ants or the beehive or whatever, that stuff behind the scenes that was constantly churning. And so for me, when I think about my career and think about what you're doing, to get what happens on above the surface, that overnight success that everyone sees, it's like, what is all this activity down below that you are constantly thinking about, paying attention to, and pursuing, you know, I want to say day in, day out. You know, the other thing I would say in terms of when I think about my career as it is now, and the way it's always been, like I am waiting for the bloody silver platter. Any time, you know what? Any time now. Someone can just hand something to me. That would be terrific. And I think there's a lot that I hear, particularly in the startup community, where people are waiting for something on a silver platter. There is no silver platter. Doesn't matter what TechCrunch tells you. There's no magical investors out there. They're not handing out money in New York City to every idea that comes along, nor are they doing that in Silicon Valley. But we have this notion now, and think in a lot of minds, in terms of how we're building companies, that somebody else is going to hand something to us. And the point is, you're going to do it yourself. And that's what people invest in, and that's how we make it happen. I personally think a lot of the attention on outside investment is taking you off your game, which is building your business, right? When I think of the entrepreneur who I would want to emulate, is Sarah Blakely. I mean, she owns 100% of her company. She was selling Danka fax machines at the back of her car. She didn't quit doing that until she knew she could make enough money to continue her business. And she owns that company lock, stock, and barrel. Full stop. No one telling her, you know, Sarah, your branding kind of sucks. Come on, let's all admit it. The branding on Spanx, the packaging, is really kind of tacky and bad. Yeah. Right? If she had a big VC firm or private equity firm, you know, they'd get some branders in there and we'd have to change this, right? Yeah. Right? It's the same tacky branding she said since day one. Yeah. You know, girlfriend's got it going on. You know, but if someone else had come to the table, and it was said earlier, what comes with money is a lot of other things, and loss of control is the first one. And you have to think about that. Somebody else is going to tell you how to run your business, right? So like, you know, when I go back in my life, you know, when, you know, you're living in your parents' home and they're putting the food on the table and the roof over their head and they're telling you that they want you to go to school, you're like, okay, they're the ones with the money, they're the ones in control, that's what I got to do. So, the silver platter. So my kind of lessons and things that I think about what I can impart to you as entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, whether you're starting up, starting over, you know, all these kinds of things. You are your best PR. Decide what your brand is. For me, my brand has changed. I moved from being a lawyer into law firm management. That flipped my brand. When I put out my resume, it no longer listed all the deals I did at the top. It listed all the law firm sort of quality of life, recruiting, hiring. Like, think about how you're putting out your information. Are you putting it out for the brand you want to be seen and known as? Or they, you know, like I always laugh, particularly with lawyers, you know, like 25 years later, does anyone care that that partner at that law firm was at law review? Like, check the clock, buddy. Like, change it. So think about what your brand is and how you're putting it out there. And think about the audience. You are, your brand, I want to say your brand has various dimensions. It's not one-dimensional. It is not flat. And in your brand in terms of what platform, what networking venue, what audience you're in front of, it should be nuanced for that. So social media was mentioned. For me, social media is no different than any other networking venue. Who are the people, the eyeballs that are looking at you and you're interacting with? So for LinkedIn, for me, it's the room we're in right now. You're at a business conference. You know, Facebook, a lot of people do business on it. For me, it's friends and family. It's, you know, catching up with those people. So my LinkedIn audience doesn't care what I ate for breakfast. Please, if anyone's got their Twitter handle attached to their LinkedIn, please tell me before we get out of the room that you have stopped that. Your you know, LinkedIn is your business, so they don't care what you had for breakfast, right? What do your friends and family care about? There may be some of your business accomplishments they care about, but they may not care about it in the same words and language that what you would use on LinkedIn. And then Twitter is your cocktail party. It's going to be where we step into, you know, after I finish talking, okay? But think about it in those physical spaces, right? How, you know, we started earlier in the day with how you dress and how you present yourself. I mean, at some point in life, you hope you get to be Mark Zuckerberg and you can show up in, you know, a hoodie and jeans and a t-shirt and no one's going to stop you, right? Think about Warren Buffett. You want to talk to Warren? You got to go to Omaha and sit outside and eat an ice cream cone on a, you know, park bench and if you're Paul McCartney, right? That's Warren, right? At some point you get big enough in life you can do that. But for all of us, until we're in that room, don't fight getting in that room by making it more difficult for yourself. Know who your audience is. Know what they're going to respond positively to so that you're not tuned out by them before you even get in the room. And I want to reiterate the saying, yes, in terms of you are your best PR, you know, sometimes you can manufacture PR, but just the fact that you exist is not a story. Media presents itself, jump on it. There are the studies out there in terms of, you know, we've all heard them, if there's jobs in a man or a woman, whether or not they'll apply for it, a man will apply for it if he's got like, you know, 20% of the qualifications, and a woman won't apply unless she's got 100%. Okay, in terms of media, there's this thing called Google, and you make yourself an expert in about 10 minutes. Okay? If media calls you, unless you're like, I cannot do this, they want me to speak on Roswell, and I really don't care about aliens, right? Unless it's like way off your mark or way off your brand, right? Take it. And if you're like, I don't know everything on this, like I said, there's this little thing called Google, and you make yourself an expert pretty quick. Okay? I think we heard a lot today. Know what you want. And what you want in life is going to change. But that clarity and being specific on what you want is really going to help you move your business forward. It's going to enable you to ask for things with clarity. So we say in the startup world, you know, when people are building their businesses, you know, don't boil the ocean. Like, you can't be all things to everything. And when you're out there speaking to people about what you need, being very hairline precise gives something to people to respond to, right? Think about when someone approaches you. I'm looking for a job. And you're like, whoa, 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 too big, like I can't, right? Versus someone saying to you, you know what, I've just been laid off and I'm thinking about doing X. And someone giving you something very precise, you can sort of do the mental Rolodex of, do I know anyone? Is there someone I can refer them to? Or going, you know what, I don't know anyone at all in the title business. But, you know, maybe there's somebody I can ask, who knows, right? You can give someone, you know, like, think about your own when you're asked for something that's too big or too wide. So for yourselves, think about that. Know exactly what you want and have a way to articulate that, because then people can help you. Avoid shiny objects. I want you to be pathological in what your goal is and what you want to achieve. We all want to save the world, right? We all want to help other people. You're not going to save the world or help other people if you're not successful. And I think Carrie was amazing in talking about how she supports the community and when she says yes and when she says no, right? You cannot lift up the rest of the community until you're on the top of the heap yourself. Mm-hmm. And as women in particular, I think we all want to, everyone wants us to say yes, right? We're supposed to do this, we're women. I mean, I had a woman call me recently, and no, she emailed me, and she was like, oh, and I've got this big contract with CSFB, and I've got so-and-so on the advisory board, and by the way, will you? And I'm like, it's not being helpful, right? You're asking me to save you, and you're not putting out your hand for me, right? So part of this for all of you is like being singularly focused on your own end game is not leaving other women behind, right? You're going to be a role model, you're going to be an example, you're going to know when you can stretch your hand out because it's going to help your business and it's going to help them. But stopping your focus and being like, oh, and I can do this and I can do that, no. Get yourself to momentum of financial success, and then you can really turn around and help a lot of other people. But if you're constantly doing that, you're not moving yourself forward. I am so thrilled that all of you are here focusing on businesses. I'm really, really happy that women want to save the world, but being really successful and being able to write the check is a really good way to save the world as well. Mark Zuckerberg wants to write a check for $25 million to, a bowl of research. Guess what? He does. I think that's kind of a nice position to be in, right? And you can build a culture and build a decent business, and you can employ the kind of people that look like you, and you can make all sorts of really good differences, but don't get distracted by all the shiny objects that take you off that straight focus of what it is that you're doing. Say thank you. And it's the thank you that adds on to the comments made earlier in terms of thanking employees and thanking people who help you. Every time you're going to give your power away, I want you to say thank you. When someone says to you, that was a really good job, and you want to go, oh no, it wasn't me. Come on, we've all done it. Just say thank you. I want the first words out of your mouth to be thank you. And then you can pause, and you can thank the rest of your team, and you can acknowledge the contributions of other people. But the first thing you do is say thank you, and you own what you've accomplished. And it's taken me a long time to learn that one. But we give our power away so often by not just, biting that nagging little doubt in the back of our head. So say thank you. So this probably gets to the other, comment I made before in terms of being successful and avoiding shiny objects is like solve your own problems, right? And like I said, it gets to that same point of I've got a bad habit of, people call me and I want to solve all their business problems. And until I turn that into a business, I got to solve my own business problems, right? So solve your own problems. And by doing that, you're going to be able to help other people solve their problems. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is how to brag. And there's two pieces to that. And it comes down, when I say brag, it's like, the comments that were made earlier on celebrating what is going on that's good in your life and in your business. And celebrate those things and tell people about it. That's a brag, right? Like for me to be able to say what an incredible experience it's been to be here in Albuquerque and be here with all of you. Like if someone said to me, hey, how's it going? I mean, like, I've had a great 48 hours. Let me tell you what's going on. Now, by my doing that, me bragging that way, has that taken away anything from any of your lives? Right? We need to hear and celebrate the brags of other women and encourage them to tell us what's going on. And knowing that somebody else's success is not taking away from your success. The world just gets bigger. So with other women, particularly, like celebrate what is going on and what is good in their business. And you know what? Celebrate your own as well. This was also said earlier, manage your own stereotypes. I'm turning 50 this year. I shouldn't be starting, a business. There's probably a lot of things I shouldn't be doing. There was an article that said I shouldn't wear short skirts. I'm probably not allowed to wear red lipstick. Swearing's probably off the list. That will be hard. That will be really hard. We can't control other people's actions. We can only control our own. So manage your own stereotypes, right? We all want the world to change. We want this leadership to sort of emanate from the top and change things. Think about all our lives in the corporate world. I'm a real believer in the micro actions. Where do revolutions start? They don't start up here. They start down here, right? So manage your own stereotypes. Think about how you look at people. I was saying to Lisa earlier, one of my other favorite entrepreneurs is a woman by the name of Lynn Tilton. She's the founder of Patriot Partners, probably the largest woman-owned business in the country. I think she has 75 companies in her portfolio. She's out to save U.S. manufacturing jobs. This woman is kick-ass. She makes the Real Housewives of New Jersey look like wallflowers. I remember the first time I saw Lynn and she was getting out an SUV, and I swear, I have to tell the truth, I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, my head was like, her daughter yells at her, like, are you going out like that, Mom? Short skirt, blah, blah. But when you look at Lynn, when she was at Goldman, whatever else, hair was the appropriate length. Mm-hmm. Everything was whatever. She finally had her own company doing her own thing. She's like, this is who I am, right? Mm-hmm. But when you look at her, you think, someone get her a stylist, right? No. There's my prejudice, right? Sitting there in my head, and I can laugh about it now. But it is manage your own stereotypes and how you look at people, and know that it's I hate the expression, what's inside them. What are they bringing to the table? And by changing our own actions, we can just start to have that ripple effect. Otherwise, as I say to people, I don't know, I didn't expect at 50 that I'd be rallying and banging on the doors for the same stuff that probably my mother was rallying on the door for, and somebody else in between in generations and all the rest of it. It's exhausting at this point. Can we cut it out so we can move on and do something productive? So we heard a lot, you hear a lot about thinking outside the box. And I'm going to tell you to do the opposite. Think inside the box, because that's when I think you get really creative. When resources are scarce, right? When you have limitations on time, when something has to happen no matter what, right? This is all you have right here, right now. What are you going to do? We can all sit there and make excuses. Well, if I had more of this and I had more than that. So you know what? Creativity loves constraints. Think inside the box and make it happen. This is a lesson I learned from my sister-in-law. I'm a Virgo. I like things in a certain way. And I remember the first time visiting my younger brother and his wife, and the dishes were stacked up in the sink. And I started to walk towards him, and Candace leave the dishes. There's more important stuff to do all day, important things, like hanging out with my nephews, who are babies. She's like, do them at the end of the day. She's like, I leave them there all day. Leave the dishes in the sink, right? Focus on the important tasks. Mm. Do the big things. Focus on what is important. What might be important is heading to the gym. What might be important is going to the spa. What might be important is, taking an interview, and you're like, oh, but I have this to do. No, leave the dishes in the sink every once in a while. And do the big, important things that are either going to move your business forward or move you forward, right? As a person, and take care of yourself. I'm going to tell 3 stories, and I think it addresses a lot of the conversation we've heard today on funding and building a business, and the community you need to build a business. Mark Andreessen of Andreessen Horowitz that I listened to, and he was interviewed at Stanford. And what I loved about it is very early on, Mark talks about the deal inflow they get at Andreessen Horowitz. They only take deals in through their network. So that being said, they have inflow of 3,000 or 4,000 deals a year. If they just accepted from anyone, you can imagine what that would be. But 3,000 or 4,000 inbound deals a year, that's a lot. They take a couple hundred seriously. They invest in 20. That's the VC reality, right? That's probably angel investment reality. So, well, I recognize that there is a very tremendous difficulty for women to get funded. Getting funded is bloody hard and is highly unlikely. You need to get yourself into networks and relationships that these things may happen, but don't hang your business on that. Like, if someone would just give me money, or if these investors, the chances of it, reality of it happening, which is not to say, you know, it's never going to happen, but don't build your business on that being the necessity, right? For most of us, it's just not going to happen. And that Mark walking through that on this interview, I'm like, thank you. And I'm sort of thinking to myself, wonder how many people are listening to this being the most important 60 seconds of his entire hour and a half. There is the reality. One of my favorite entrepreneurs, a guy by the name of Patrick Sullivan, he had a company called RightsFlow. Patrick is he's like Irish American from the Bronx. He knew exactly what he wanted to do with RightsFlow. RightsFlow tracks artist rights with YouTube. It was purchased by Google. When he was building the company, at one point, his wife was, yelling at him like, get a job, and he was standing there looking at all the furniture in the house, figuring what he could sell on eBay. He took in $1 million $1.5 million in outside funding. He did $1 million in debt funding. No one ever talks about that. There's people who do debt funding when you get to a certain point. The day they did the debt funding, he was sitting out in Silicon Valley. He had a meeting with the lender, and he called his CFO and he said, if I have to take this guy for beers, will my credit card bounce? Mm-hmm. The day they got that funding, they had 2 screenshots of their bank account. There was $900 in the bank account in the morning. Okay? The day they closed with Google for an undisclosed sum, so if Jessica was in the room, she could start doing the math, and probably like I can do, on what it cost them to close, and on the size of the number of people in the closing room, and signing the papers, how much this undisclosed sum was. There were 75 people in closing. He had his own outside team. He had 25 of the people in the room, including an outside M&A firm he had to hire to shop the deal. Google had the other 50. Here's the important point. On that day of closing, Patrick owned 51%. Okay? 51% of his company. The only place they could ever afford to go and drink when they were building their company is a place called Dallas Barbecue. It's one of those chain restaurants in New York that kind of mortifies you. That's where they went to celebrate when they closed with Google. Patrick calls and says, let's go for a beer. I know where we're going. We're going to barbecue. That's where he goes. One night, some of us met there for drinks, and he and his wife were going to black tie gala. They were there in black tie and barbecue. That's just kind of the guy he is. Drives a Maserati now, but that's okay. But the point is, he probably could have taken a lot more funding. He could have made a lot of other decisions, but he made the decision to control his company and to be pathologically focused on the end game. Right? He knew what he was building. He knew what he was building it for. He knew he was building a type of company that that a Google or an Apple was going to want to buy. And like I said, he was sitting there like, what can I get for this chair on eBay? And that's what he did. And he had 51% of his company on closing. And God bless him. Like, if you want to hit like the ball out of the park and ring the bell and do all of that, then sacrifice and do it. Right? He's just phenomenal guy. The other story that I want to tell you is about Richard Branson, and I heard Branson speak at the World Business Forum in New York at Radio City Music Hall. And if you've never been there, I mean, it's got this great sweeping of seats and the way it angles down. And the World Business Forum is attended by managers of big companies of a certain level. So you can all start doing the visual, right? Skin color, haircut, suit, all of a certain genre, right? Room filled with these people. And there's Richard Branson. And the interviewer said to him, Richard, what was it about what in your life made you the extraordinary entrepreneur that you are, right? And you see all these pens. It's like I was sitting there, this is going to be good, right? Like you're just watching, everyone's just like waiting, like he's going to drop some pearl and I'm going to run out of here and I'm going to become like Richard Branson. And Richard looks at this guy and says, I came from a loving household. And you could just see all the shoulders fall in disappointment. And I'm like, this is the best thing ever, right? And if you all think about your own lives and what you're doing now, and some of you are going to say, yeah, my parents really supported me, and they said I could do anything, right? And I knew I came from a loving household, and that's why I can go out and be my full self and express myself and pursue things, because I know I'm not going to get that judgment. I'm not one of those people. I can't put my hand up and say that. I have very sensible, kind parents, but until I appeared in Forbes, my father really was not too happy about what I was doing. You now have another family. And you're in the family of all the other entrepreneurs in this room and all the other women who are part of Hautepreneurs. And you have a family who believes in you and is going to cheer you on, right? So when you think about what you're going to go out there and do, you're now part of this extraordinary community, and just know that in terms of making you and helping each other become the best you can do and be with your business. Whether your business takes you to Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Sarah Blakely heights, or if it makes you an outstanding, lifestyle business, God bless, that's the backbone, and small business is the backbone of our economy. We should be celebrating them more than anything else, right? So know that you have this other family now, and so don't think, well, I didn't come from a loving family. You're in one now. And support each other and help each other and continue to do that, because that is what is going to change the economy of this state and everything that goes on for all of you. And on that, I will, if anyone's looked at my Twitter handle and everything else, one of the things I always say is invest in the change you want to see in the world. And that's investing in yourself, right? That's investing in what you believe in. That's investing your time. That's investing your money. That's investing your resources, right? One of the things, in terms of thinking about women and starting companies and investment and money and all these kinds of things, I often look at women in the face. And I'm not one to be a blame the victim, but ladies, we hold the power, right? What are we doing with it? Are you investing your time, your money, your energy, resources in the things that you personally believe in? right? You should be investing in each other, right? If you're buying a donut anywhere other than Rebel Donuts, I don't want to know about it. Because I ain't going to be happy, right? I was speaking on it was more of a conversation. It was on women on boards. Okay, a lot of people talking about that. And I looked at the room, and we were at Google in New York City, and there's an anthropology store on the ground floor, which is also Urban Outfitters and Free People and all the rest of it. At the time, they had no women on the corporate boards. They did not have women or minorities in senior management. Okay? They don't see us as leaders. So why do they get our money, right? So pay attention to things like that, because with even if you said I'm not investing, like I can't be an angel investor, Kelly, or I don't have this, we spend our money, right? 85% of all personal and business decisions are fueled by women's decision making. So how are you spending your money? And that gets back to those micro actions, right? I do not like the corporate culture of Uber. I do not have the app on my phone.
Thank you.
No?
Yes.
Lisa's like, woo, yeah, all that kind of stuff, right? Why would I fuel that kind of a corporate culture, right? I don't care how cute the little ad is and whatever. My sister-in-law emailed me. She wants some boots from Anthropology. I'm like, you're going to have to find someone else to do it for you. I can't, right? I met George Takei at South by Southwest last year, and I looked at him and I said, besides the fact that I only think there's one Star Trek, that comes with my age, I looked at him and I said, I believe in marriage equality. I have a fundamental problem where I, a green card holder, have more civil rights in this country than a U.S. citizen. That's fundamentally wrong, right? So if a company doesn't support those views, I don't invest my time or my energy there. And so think about that as you're building your business. Think about your personal decisions and how you can help change, right, the world that is around you. And we can all do that and make a huge difference. So invest in that change. The last thing I would say, because we're going to go in a cocktail party, and like I said, you can ask me any questions, since people think I seem to know something about networking and I'm smart on Twitter. I can answer all of those questions on that. What I would suggest to all of you, because there's a lot of talk about investing in your business, the money that it needs, is I always say to people, everyone needs more money. If Warren Buffett was sitting right here and I said, Warren, do you need some more money? He'd say, of course I need some more money. Everyone needs more money, right? You can do something else with it. Think about what you need beyond money. And and that may change every week, but always have on hand, what do you need beyond money? There might be an introduction, there might be a connection, there might be some feedback, right? You may have a short-term need for money, but really, getting expansion of your, extending your line of credit, getting, more capacity on your credit card, whatever it may be, being told, as Joanne Wilson sitting on a panel together, and an entrepreneur said something, and Joanne looked at her and said, "You're going to be in profit in 6 months. Suck it up." Sometimes what we need is that kind of advice. So what do you need beyond money? And have that answer to give to people, because that may be what they can give you that keeps fueling you forward step by step, right? To get your business, momentum and get where it's going. Do you need an introduction? Who to? Have specific examples. This entrepreneur who Joanne told to suck it up, she does these incredible, looking down at this carpet, she does these incredible custom carpets. She's like, oh, well, okay, I need, introductions to high-end interior designers. And we're like, okay, I got some names for you, right? I can give you leads, right? So what do you need beyond money? And be able to articulate and give that to people. If they say, how are you doing? Is there anything I can do to help? Yeah, sure you can. You know what? I'm really looking for an introduction to so-and-so. Have that, because people do want to help you. Know what you need so you can ask for it.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you.
You guys will send me cards? I'll steal that.